Your cooking is so bad, it's embarrassing to serve. Tracy, my mother-in-law, always resisted letting me cook. But everyone is looking forward to Tessa's home-cooked meals. I believe Tessa can do it. Even if no one else eats, I'll finish everything, so don't worry. We're all cheering for Tessa. Watching Ian say this, Tracy responded, "If you're so keen on having Tessa cook, then go ahead, but she only has 1 hour." I rolled up my sleeves and replied, "No, I'll do it in 30 minutes. My name is Tessa. I'm 32 years old. I've been a homemaker since marrying my husband Ian 4 years ago. This morning's breakfast is a plain omelet with ham and soup. It might look like an ordinary menu, but it's packed with my personal touch. Today's soup and omelets are flavored with a well-infused broth. Making delicious food and seeing people smile as they eat it, that's my joy." After having breakfast, Ian said, "Wow, the flavor really comes through in this morning's omelet. This soup is amazing too." Ian always eats a lot of my cooking. He's very kind and loved by everyone, but he's a bit timid at times. I'm the opposite of Ian, stubborn and strong-willed, but we complement each other's shortcomings well. Even when we disagree, it never turns into a big fight, and we live a peaceful, married life. I'm glad I married this person. Every day made me realize that. After seeing Ian off, I take a moment to relax before starting on dinner prep. It's still morning, but it's never too early. Besides, cooking is my joy, so no matter how many hours it takes, it's never a burden. What to make for tonight? Shopping while thinking about this is really fun. I keep my hair short so it won't get in the way when I'm cooking. I've never done my nails. Keeping nails short and clean is a basic principle of cooking. Today, I decide to stretch my legs and go to a distant supermarket, where I find a splendid whole sea brim on sale. It's these kinds of encounters that make searching for ingredients so much fun. Happy about my fruitful walk, I head home with delight. For someone who prioritizes cooking as much as I do, there's a bit of a downside. I'm often mistaken for a man. With my considerable height, short hair, and frequent jeans attire, my figure from behind appears masculine, and I get called brother quite often. When I shared this with Ian, "Just wear something feminine once in a while," he suggested, but I always default to whatever's comfortable for shopping, prioritizing ease of movement. Especially for days like today, when I'm buying big fish. "Tessa really loves cooking, doesn't she? Leave her alone and she'd cook all day long," Ian remarked with a laugh, watching me toil away in the kitchen. "Why don't we cook together sometimes? It's not that hard. Just gather the ingredients according to the recipe, and as long as you get the timing right, anyone can make something delicious. But presentation can't be sloppy. That's where your sense comes into play. With a bit of practice, you can plate up beautifully." I tried to encourage Ian. "I can't do those fancy platings. Your cooking could be served in a restaurant, right? That's impossible for me. Your passion for cooking is seriously professional. There's no way I could cook alongside that. It's just too much to ask." Indeed, the passion I pour into my cooking is intense. It wouldn't be an overstatement to say that cooking is my everything. Finally, today's dinner was ready, and I set it on the table. A beautiful aquapazza made with slices of sea bream and a fumée de poisson from the head and tail. Ian and I don't have kids yet. It's just the two of us and Ian's mother, Tracy, living together. She turned out to be my greatest adversary. This aquapazza only tastes like sea bream. And is this supposed to be a fumée de poisson? It tastes like plain, hot water. Undrinkable. Tracy criticized out of nowhere. What are you talking about, Mom? The aquapazza brings out the flavor of the sea bream perfectly. And the fumée de poisson is infused with umami. It's outstanding. Ian defended the dishes. Indeed, today's cooking was flawless. Tracy claims to be confident in her cooking skills, but that's just because she's been a housewife for a long time, not because she's particularly good at it. Her stews are always overloaded with sugar. Her soups taste solely of salt. All of them are too heavily seasoned to taste the ingredients themselves. The water ratios and heat are all over the place, turning everything into a mushy, soupy mess. Tessa, could you pass the salt and pepper? It needs more flavor to be edible, Tracy said as she began to pour them in generously. Tracy, if you add that much, the flavor of the sea bream will be lost, not to mention the excess sodium, I protested. But Tracy retorted, Cooking needs to be robust to be delicious. When will you learn, Tessa? I keep telling you every day it's not good enough. Ian, you don't have to force yourself to eat this. If it's bad, just say it's bad. It's tough having a daughter-in-law who can't cook, but you shouldn't have to endure it. Tracy's snide comments weren't new. They started from the first time I met her. Tracy took one look at my boyish appearance and said she didn't like it. Perhaps she would have preferred a quiet daughter-in-law with long hair. But I had no interest in dressing to Tracy's taste. It was a non-issue for me, so I never changed my style. My approach only made Tracy angrier, and now she had complaints about everything I did. Tracy, just to let you know, Ian isn't just putting up with me. Maybe it's your taste that's off if you can only eat such strong flavors. My blunt nature seems to bother Tracy as well. Come on, give it a rest. Can we not fight at dinner time, please? Ian always steps in to stop us. But the fights just pause. They don't end our feud. My assertive personality leads us into arguments, time and time again. And Tracy has started to retaliate in various ways, ignoring me and spreading rumors in the neighborhood. This has gone on for 4 years since we got married, and even for someone as competitive as I am, it's exhausting. I've repeatedly reported to Ian, asking him to tell Tracy to stop her harassment, but Ian, timid as he is, can't speak up to her. Who matters more to you, Ian? Me or Tessa? I'm your mother who raised you to be the man you are. I expect to be your priority. If you don't stand up for yourself, Tessa will take over. You should teach her to be a compliant daughter-in-law and listen to me. Instead of helping, he's caught between Tracy and me. Tracy's complaints aren't limited to cooking. Tessa, when's the last time you cleaned? Look at all this dust. Can't cook, can't clean. Why did Ian even marry you? She nags constantly, but never lifts a finger to help around the house. As the year comes to a close, Christmas is just around the corner. With Tessa's slow pace, I doubt the house will be ready for Christmas. While I'm scrambling to deep clean the house, Tracy does nothing but complain. I'm busy polishing the whole house. If you're not going to help, Tracy, please stop standing in the way and move. I couldn't help but snap back. In Ian's family, relatives gather every year for a lively feast. Preparing the house and getting ready for a large gathering always makes the end of the year hectic. You're quite the talker. Once the cleaning's done, pick up the appetizers, will you? They're ordered from the usual place. Tracy always buys appetizers from a store. Nothing fancy, just from the local family restaurant. Wouldn't it be nice to try something different instead of the same old appetizers we order? I've always believed homemade is best. Maybe I could make them for us. When I made the suggestion, Tracy's eyebrows shot up. Serve your cooking? The thought alone is frightening. If we presented such a shoddy meal, we'd become the laughingstock of the entire family. Listen, Tessa, you mustn't make the appetizers. Ever. This kind of exchange had become an annual tradition. Every time I mentioned wanting to make the appetizers, Tracy would insist we order them from the family restaurant. It was the same old pattern, repeated year after year. In the end, we always did what Tracy wanted, but deep down, I still yearned to make those appetizers. I dreamed of preparing an array of ingredients to create a colorful feast, crafted with love and care. Homemade appetizers for Christmas seemed so special. I wanted to showcase my cooking skills to the fullest. Yet, I couldn't let go of that wish. This year was no different. The dream remained unfulfilled, and I found myself hustling to entertain relatives just like last year. I greeted one relative after another as they arrived, then busied myself carrying beer or fetching more food whenever supplies ran low. Meanwhile, Tracy was cornering the woman in the family, saying, "If only Tessa were a good wife like you. She's all talk. Can't cook or clean to save her life. Would anyone care to trade places with Tessa? I'm not being modest. She truly lacks any good qualities, especially in cooking. No matter how much I teach her, she doesn't improve. It's quite troubling." I could hear Tracy bad-mouthing me, not lifting a finger to help. It was infuriating. Every year, the same thing, and here I was, working my tail off. Apologies for the store-bought appetizers every year, all because of our clumsy daughter-in-law. If only she were a bit more capable, we could have had lavish homemade ones, but that's too much for Tessa. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back any longer and interrupted Tracy's rant. With all due respect, it's not that I can't make the appetizers, I've just never been allowed to. If you don't mind, I'll start making them right now, with all my heart, for everyone to enjoy. Tracy tried to soothe me in a panic. Come on, Tessa, you're not good at cooking, so don't be ridiculous. You don't need to do anything. You must be tired from being on your feet since morning. Please, everyone, don't mind her. Tessa, come sit down and take a break. But I wasn't one to back down easily. No, thank you. Store-bought appetizers just won't satisfy our guests, will they? I'll prepare something delicious myself, so please wait a moment. Tracy stood up, saying, No way! Your terrible cooking is inedible, so stop this nonsense. And with that, she tried to push me back towards the kitchen. Just when the living room burst into lively chatter, Ian came rushing in. Tessa, could you whip up some appetizers? Everyone's craving your cooking. To think you'd offer to make something as elaborate as appetizers. You're so diligent. The uncles were impressed. I want to try Tessa's creations too. I believe in you. And hey, if nobody else eats them, I'll finish them all. So go ahead, with peace of mind. Plus, everyone's rooting for you. Tracy, trying not to show her irritation, reluctantly agreed. If you're that eager to have Tessa cook, then fine, but she's got just an hour. I said as I rolled up my sleeves. No, I'll show you in 30 minutes. Tracy looked so angry, it was as if steam might come out of her ears. Go ahead, try. If you make something weird, Tessa, the embarrassment's on you. Don't say I didn't warn you. And with that, she stormed out of the kitchen. Truth be told, I had secretly prepared the appetizers earlier to share with Ian later. All that was left was to season and plate them. It was lucky I had prepped in advance. Even I couldn't conjure up a terrine from scratch in 30 minutes. With guests ranging from the elderly to children today, I aimed for flavors that were universally palatable and visually delightful, cutting vegetables in stars and hearts. I found joy in the time spent cooking, imagining the smiles of those who would enjoy the meal. The aroma wafted into the living room, where everyone awaited my cooking. My family's restaurant, after all, is no secret. It's a sought-after spot in a prime New York location, always bustling with reservations. Growing up with my father's skill and top-notch flavors, I had honed my craft to rival any local establishment. From selecting the best ingredients to handling the knife, I was taught by the master himself, my father. I had brought the plated appetizers to the living room, where everyone was waiting. The presentation was on par with a high-end restaurant, stirring murmurs of admiration. Amazing! Just amazing! That's our Tessa! See, everyone? Didn't I tell you? Tessa's an incredible cook. You believe me now, right? Ian was beaming with pride. He'd always tried to clear my name, boasting to the relatives that my cooking was top-notch. Every single one of my appetizers was hailed as exquisite, and they disappeared in no time. Bombarded with questions about my culinary skill, I shared about our family's fine dining establishment and the techniques I'd learned there. Though Tracy had always been critical of my cooking, even she, amidst murmurs of disapproval for her past comments, couldn't help but join in and enjoy the appetizers. That night, after the relatives left and our home was quiet again, I reflected on the day with a sense of relief. My resentment towards Tracy had dissipated, and the hors d'oeuvres had been a success. Plus, it was such a wonderful Christmas to have so many people enjoy and compliment the food. Some time later, encouraged strongly by my relatives, I started giving cooking classes. It was small scale at my home, with just a few people. But as I honed genuine skills, word spread and more students came. Tracy, since the hors d'oeuvres incident, stopped complaining about my cooking and started helping out with chores, like cleaning and laundry. She didn't oppose the cooking classes. In fact, she wholeheartedly agreed. Tracy has been so cooperative lately. I'm grateful. But what brought on this change? I mused to Ian. Tessa's hors d'oeuvres must have really impressed her. It's great she's had a change of heart. Ian replied, pleased. Indeed, I too was delighted since Tracy had enjoyed the hors d'oeuvres so much. Then, one day to my surprise, Tracy was among the students in my cooking class. Tracy, what brings you here? I asked, taken aback. The way you made those delicious hors d'oeuvres. You're really amazing. Not just the cooking, but the care and thoughtfulness to delight those who eat your food. I knew I wasn't good at cooking. I once asked Ian why he chose to marry you, Tessa. He mentioned many things he loves about you, and one was your cooking skills. Seeing Ian happily eating your food, I, who lacked confidence in my cooking, became jealous of you. I acted terribly, and I'm sorry. I've always wanted to cook delicious meals, too, to make people smile with my cooking, just like you. Tessa, please, would you teach me how to cook? Tracy implored. I had no idea Tracy was struggling with such feelings. I just assumed she was being mean because she disliked me. I realized that it was me who hadn't been there for Tracy. I hadn't even made an effort to understand her. Of course. But Tracy, you have a lot to learn compared to the other students. We need to start with how to hold a knife properly. Are you ready for this? I said, wiping away tears of joy. Thank you. Please teach me. Tracy said, tears streaming down her face too. When I mentioned that she didn't need to go all the way to a classroom since I had taught her at home, Tracy firmly replied, I just can't accept professional lessons for free, even from family. And with that, Tracy continued to attend her cooking classes. At first, it was hard to believe Tracy had been a housewife for 40 years. I had to start with the very basics, like how to hold a knife and how to cut vegetables. But she humbly followed my strict instructions and gradually improved. Now she can even fillet a fish. Tracy, you seem to be enjoying yourself. Seeing Tracy's smiling face as she cooked filled me with joy, and when I commented, she said, Cooking is so much fun. I understand now why Tessa put so much passion into it. The best part is having people enjoy what I make. Tracy started to smile more often, not just while cooking. Previously, she had been somewhat shunned by our neighbors due to speaking ill of me. Lately, however, I often see her chatting happily in a circle with the neighbors. Through cooking, Tracy and I gradually bridged the gap that had grown between us. Months went by. Tessa, what did you think of this soup? I think I did well. Tracy's dishes began to appear more frequently on our dinner table. When Tracy and I went shopping for groceries, people mistook us for a real mother and daughter. We had become that close, almost to the point of making Ian jealous. It's amazing how much we've changed just by being honest with each other. Living with these two makes me truly happy. And now, there's a new life growing inside me. Next year, our family will grow to 4. For our new family member, Tracy is working hard to further improve her cooking skills. I'm so grateful for these days, feeling inspired not to be outdone.